Today, I'm very happy to be joined by the MLB.com reporter for the Houston Astros, Brian McTaggart. Brian, really appreciate the time today. We have Game 1 of the American League Championship Series later on. Do you think the Yankees were a better matchup for this Astros team? What do you think the Astros would prefer the Yankees?
Yeah, I think the Astros were a better matchup. Look at what happened in the regular season, right? The Astros won 5 of the 7 games and really probably should have won all 7. I think they have it down to a science how to pitch Judge and Stanton, and really those are the 2 guys you don't want hurting you in that lineup. They have some other good hitters in the lineup, but really those are the guys you have to keep in the ballpark. We saw that in the ALDS Game 5 with Cleveland. Plus, also, I think with the way the Astros have rest now, the Yankees pitching, they're only going to be able to pitch Garrett Cole and Nestor Cortez, their top 2 starters, once on full rest, probably in games 3 and 4. The Indians, I think their starting pitching is a little better. I mean, Tristan McKenzie did a really good job shutting the Astros down earlier this year. The Indians played the Astros very well in the regular season. So I just think the Astros match up better with the Yankees. And, I think they'll beat the Yankees in 5 games. I mean, I think they're that much better than the Yankees.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are pretty confident heading into the series, especially with how the Astros played. I don't think they trailed for a single inning against the Yankees, if I remember.
That's right.
So, they've been playing really well. Let's hope they can continue it. And, if there is an issue for the Astros and facing the Yankees, what would potentially pose a threat to them?
Well, the Yankees do have the ability to hit the ball out of the ballpark. They can score runs in bunches. We saw that, in the 2 games the Astros lost to the Yankees. One of them, they went to the bottom of the 9th with a 3-run lead, and boom, they score 4 runs and lose. Another game, Judge hit a walk-off home run. The other one, a walk-off home run by Aaron Hicks, now who's out for these series. So they do have the ability to hit the ball out of the yard. And I think that's the way you got to keep them in the yard, make them beat you in other ways. But I think you just have to neutralize Judge and Stanton, more so Judge. He's a much more dangerous hitter. Let somebody else beat you, whether it's LeMahieu, if he plays a lot, Jose Trevino. Jose Trevino had a good first half, second half, not as good. Hicks is out now. So, there are some holes in that lineup, and they have to, exploit those and try to pitch really well.
Yeah, I think that's really the key there too. Judge is really holding down that lineup. That's the one guy you cannot really let him beat you. So that's something the Astros definitely need to zone in on. And, you mentioned it, the Yankees don't get any rest coming into Game 1. I think this is really a must win if you're the Astros. Got to get the win here in Game 1. It's a really big advantage that they have here. Do you think Jameson Taillon is someone the Astros can really get after offensively?
I think so. They roughed him up earlier this year, I believe. He's not, the fact they don't have Cole or Cortez going in the first 2 games of this series, I think, plus to the Astros. Even Severino's a guy the Astros have had a lot of success against. Not that, Taillon can't come out here and pitch really well. He's pitching in his hometown. It's probably one of the biggest starts for him. He's going to be fired up. But I certainly like the matchup for the Astros. And look, the Yankees are having to fly across country at night. You do this all the time in the regular season, right? In the playoffs, you win a series, you fly across country, then you play the next day. But this is the playoffs. Things are magnified a little bit. Every at bat, every pitch matters. And the Astros just have winning down to such a science that in the playoffs they're just going to be so hard to beat, because unlike the regular season, they have their same lineup, they have their top lineup, their best hitters in there every game. And their bullpen and pitching is so good that they can match you up with just about anything. And we saw, hey, you go 18 innings, we'll keep you scoreless for 18 innings too. Justin Verlander's on the mound, and I just don't think he's going to have back-to-back poor starts. So, I certainly expect the Astros to win Game 1.
Yeah, that's the hope, and really hope that Justin Verlander can step it up. Glad you mentioned that, because it was really crazy, because he struggled in the first game, and then Jose Altuve was struggling, but the Astros still ended up sweeping the Mariners. But, based on watching Verlander and what he had to say, what do you think was going wrong, and what do you think he's going to be fixing up today?
Well, he sort of hinted to some mechanical things with the lower half of his body. He didn't really want to get into details. And I think all of this stems from his stint on the injured list with the calf injury that he suffered in August that kept him out for 3 weeks. Ever since he came back from that, he's pitched really well, but he's also battled his mechanics a little bit. So I think some of it stemmed from that. And he's had 7 days off in between starts now to sort of work on that. And I think he'll come out ready to go. I mean, I was looking up some of the numbers actually the other day. I mean, Verlander hasn't won a playoff game since I think the ALDS in 2019. His last 5 playoff starts, he's not won. He lost 2 games in the World Series in 2019, and the previous game here this year. So I think he would like to get that behind him and get a win under his belt. He's going to be well rested. And the Yankees going to be on fumes a little bit. So I think it's a lineup that matches well. A lot of hitters that he should be able to dominate and get pretty deep tonight, I think.
Yeah, that's what we hope. And I think the schedule for the Yankees pitchers, it seems like it's going to be Tyone, then Severino, Cole, and Cortez lining up. But for the Astros, have they really announced the lineup yet in terms of, is Fromber going to be pitching game 2 and it will be Lance and then Javier? Do you guys have like any idea how that's going to be looking out yet?
No, we asked Dusty Baker that yesterday. He did not. He says they know who's going to pitch game 2. I think they just wanted to finalize things. I think it'll be Valdez. So that would give you Verlander and Valdez in games 1 and 2, and you could bring them back on full rest. I think at 5, 6 later in the series. There is a case for pitching Lance McCullers in game 2 and then bringing him back in game 6 on full rest. And both those starts would be at home. I mean, Lance has pitched a lot better at home in his career than he has on the road. So maybe you give him a couple of starts at home if the series goes that long. But Verlander and Valdez are your 2 guys. I mean, they're the 2 guys that have led the rotation all year. So I think they're going to choose to pitch them 1-2 out the gate.
Yeah, I think that's a really great move there, and that's what you hope, the best 2 pitchers, pitching first. And who's a player that you think kind of deserves more attention on this Astros team for really stepping it up in the postseason so far?
Well, that's probably Yuli Gurriel. I mean, he's a guy who's had an up and down regular season, probably more down than up. At times it looked like that, he was really struggling to maybe stay in the lineup. They went out and traded for Trey Mancini, and you're wondering, how much playing time is he going to take away from Mancini? But Yuli had a very, very good ALDS, not only with the bat. I think he hit around 500 in the ALDS, had a homer. But he also picked some balls out of first base, really, really saved Altuve a couple of times, I think, in game 2 when Altuve went over the middle, the jump throw, another backhanded throw behind second, and Yuli showed he's still an elite defensive first baseman. Of course, won the Gold Glove last year. So I don't know if this is Yuli's last year in Houston. I think this is probably it at 38 years old. I don't know how motivated they are to bring him back, but he's certainly showing that he's got something left that can help this team win, and he's one of the only few position players left from that World Series championship team. He caught the final out of the World Series in 2017. So if this is it for him for his time in Houston, he's going out really strong, and he really helped them get by the Mariners in the ALDS.
Yeah, for sure. He's been someone that's been so important to this golden era run that the Astros have had, really locking it down at first base. And if it is the end, he's done a great job, like you mentioned. And Jose Altuve was someone that we thought was going to step it up in the playoffs. Obviously, it happens sometimes. He was struggling in the DS, but what have you seen from Jose, and what have been your thoughts? Like, what was the feeling with him in the ALDS, really?
Well, I think he was just swinging at pitches out of the zone, and he admitted that to me yesterday. I was able to get with him a little bit in the dugout after the workout, and he says he's just got to quit chasing pitches. 0 for 16. The thing that really struck me about Altuve was after the ALDS in Seattle, even though he went 0 for 16 and 0 for 8 after that game 3, I've never seen him as happy as I saw him after a clinching celebration after a series like I did on Saturday in Seattle. I mean, he was really, really happy. In fact, somebody asked him about his 0 for 16 and said, "Did you not get the results you wanted?" And he says, "No, I got the results I wanted. We're advancing. We won." And I think that just speaks to the team player that he is. Yeah, sure, he would rather go 8 for 16 than 0 for 16. But the fact that he went 0 for 16 atop that lineup, and other guys were able to pick him up like Yuli and Pena and Alvarez, and they were still able to win that series. I think he was thrilled about that. He went out there yesterday and took some live BP which is kind of unusual for a guy of his stature. When some of the taxi squad guys are throwing live BP to stay sharp, and uh, I think he's going to set himself up for a big series against the Yankees. A team that he loves to play against, a team that sees him as the number one villain in all of baseball. And man, it would not surprise me if he jumps on the first pitch and sails it over the Crawford boxes. But I think he'll come to play in the ALCS and sort of put the ALDS behind him.
Yeah, 100%. That's what he hoped against the Yankees. He's been really, really great, and just hope he can get back on track. And I think that's what we all hope for him. Really glad to see that he was happy, because he's my favorite player. So glad he's doing good. And what are the vibes really in the clubhouse leading up today? What's been kind of like the feeling with the players and stuff? I mean, they've been in this kind of situation, for the past 5, 6 years. So like, what's it like just hanging out there?
Yeah, in the clubhouse yesterday, I mean, it was just very relaxed. I mean, it was very businesslike. They worked out. They went into the clubhouse, and the Yankees Indians game was on, and some guys were laying around watching it. Some guys didn't care. I know, Bregman was watching it a little bit. Yordan Alvarez came to his locker just as Stanton hit that home run to, I think, make it 4-0 or maybe 4-1, and sort of stopped and gave it a look. But it was almost like, okay, Yankees are going to win. We'll be ready. I mean, they've been sitting around for a couple of days, and they know they're in a good spot. I mean, they know that they played really well against the Yankees. Like you said earlier, they never trailed against the Yankees at any point, with the exception of the walk-off hits by Hicks and Judge in June. They threw a no-hitter against them. So they're a very confident team about, playing New York in a best of 7. But they know it can be tough. I mean, New York Yankee Stadium is a very tough place to play. We saw that in 2017 when the home team won every game in that series. The Astros went to New York for the middle 3 games. It was a really tough environment. So game 1 is going to be important. Taking care of home field advantage is going to be important, especially if they can win these 2 games before they face Cole and Cortez, put themselves in a spot to where even if those guys pitch well, they're still going to be in good position. But Astros pitching depth is just so deep, much better than the Yankees, and I think ultimately that's what's going to get them back to the World Series.
Yeah, I think this pitching depth we haven't really seen from the Astros in a very, very long time. And it's great to see that, they've been in this situation before. They know what to do. They're confident in themselves. And that's what we like to see with the Astros. But I had this really interesting question for you. Like, when you're in the clubhouse after winning a playoff series, like, I know you guys record what's happening with the celebration and all. Do you get showered with like champagne or stuff? Do you get wet?
Well, you try not to. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm in there with a job to do, number one. Plus, I also have my tape recorder and my phone. So, by the time we get in there, the celebration is usually on the back end. I mean, there's still a lot of champagne being slung around. The celebration in Seattle was pretty wild. I mean, that was one of the wilder ones we've seen. So, I try to stand to the side as much as you can. There are some times to where it's impossible. There's champagne everywhere, or somebody will sort of target you good naturedly and pour a little bit of beer on your head, or give you a spray of champagne. Nothing you can do about that. I'd rather not have that happen, because then I go back to the press box and I smell like champagne and beer for a couple hours. So those celebrations are good and bad to cover. It's great to see the guys so excited, and it's a lot of fun. It also, you got a job to do, so you got to stay dry and with your notebook and everything, and make sure you're getting the interviews you need. It can be hard because it's dark in there. There's so many people. The guys are wearing goggles, so they're kind of hard to recognize. But usually they're pretty good about stopping their celebration individually and giving you a few minutes to talk. So I've covered a lot of those through the years, and every one of them is the same. And that smell of champagne, I guess, never gets old for the players. And as a reporter, it's something you always remember as well.
Yeah, I've really been interested in terms of how you guys cover that. So that was really great to hear. But I was wondering, like, in terms of the designated hitter position, has there really been a fixed player for that, or are we still kind of rotating between Trey Mancini and Aledmys Diaz at this point?
Yeah, I think those are the 2 guys. Mancini, hasn't performed as well as they had hoped, obviously, since they brought him over in a trade. He started a couple of the games in the DS, games 1 and 3, and Diaz started games 2 against Castillo because he's a good fastball hitter. I think he did have a hit in that game. So, Mancini's still trying to figure it out. But, if I had to guess, I think they probably put Mancini in there in game one and hope that he can get it going. I mean, it's still a guy with a track record of some pretty good years in Baltimore, but maybe the lack of consistent playing time with him and Christian Vasquez as well. I mean, he hasn't performed as well offensively as he did in Boston. Both those guys were everyday players. They're not everyday players here, and it's really hard. I've come to learn from talking to these guys. If you're not playing every day, it's really hard to get into a groove. So they're in a tough spot, but they're getting paid a lot of money to come through, and we'll see. But I certainly think it's going to be one of those two guys again in the DH. I don't see David Hensley, getting a start. He's kind of a guy that would be a little more valuable coming off the bench, I think, with what he can do and hit the ball hard and go in and play some positions offensively on the infield.
Yeah, for sure. Really hope that Mancini can kind of figure it out, and get some hits in the CS. That's what we hope. And in terms of center field, also, is it primarily going to be Chas McCormick at this point, or I mean, do you foresee Jake Myers getting a start at all in the series?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess it depends if they carry Jake Myers in the CS. I mean, I think they're going to add a pitcher because they're going to need as much pitching depth as they have. I think they're going to need another pitcher in this series because you are playing possibly 7 games in 8 days. So pitching depth will be something that's very important. If they add a pitcher, Myers might be the odd man out. I mean, he didn't play in the entire game 3 of the ALDS, although he did start game 2. So yeah, I think it will be McCormick in center field. Mauricio Dubon came in as a defensive replacement in all 3 games. I think we'll continue to see that. So I think just based on the way the lineup and rosters took shape in the ALDS and who played, it wouldn't surprise me if Jake Myers is off the ALCS roster and they add a pitcher, whether that's Will Smith or Seth Martinez. But, Myers still has some tools that they like. I mean, they like his defensive ability and his ability to pinch run. We saw him pinch run and score as well in the DS. So, that's a decision we should find out pretty soon.
Yeah, for sure. And I think Chaz has really earned that spot, in my opinion. And, I think he's kind of locked down that center field spot. But I think Jeremy Pena, I think, he was heating up right before the season kind of ended. And he's been huge in the playoffs so far. I mean, really, really delivering in the clutch. And, I've always believed that he's had the clutch gene. I mean, he continues to show it. But I think it was really impressive how he was able to, be able to hit that slider in the postseason. I think he truly has the ability to step it up. That's what I've been seeing.
Well, yeah, this has sort of been his coming out party a little bit. The hit off the slider, like you mentioned, ahead of the Alvarez walk-off homer, that was a pitch that had got him earlier in that at bat, but to come through with a couple of big singles in games 1 and 2, and then have the big home run in game 3 where he just really kept his hands through that ball and got it out of the ballpark. I think that's going to do wonders for his confidence because let's face it, he got off to a good start, and then through much of the summer he really struggled. And then at the end of the year, he played much better. His at bats were better. I think he's more comfortable in the number 2 spot in the order. I think we've seen that bear out in the numbers. And now he's growing. He's got some big postseason hits under his belt, and that can only help you going forward.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think he's going to be a lot more confident. Really love to see Jeremy Pena, having so much success already in his first season with the Astros. And there was this video on Twitter, I think, that I saw where people were commenting Brantley had a glove or something. Brantley was holding a glove or some people got so excited about that for some reason. I mean, is Brantley's, I know he's been hanging out there, but in terms of staying with the Astros, where do you see that?
Yeah, you're talking about next year, right? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if he's back. I know he's very tight with Jim Crane. I mean, in fact, I think when Crane found out he was about to sign with Toronto, I think he stepped in and got the deal done to bring him back to Houston for the another 2-year deal. So ultimately I don't think he will be back. For a greatest hitter as he is, his power's been zapped a little bit here at this point in his career. I think they probably should get a little bit younger, a little bit more athletic in the outfield in that spot, and I think they'll do that. But never underestimate a guy who loves to play here and an owner who's fallen in love with a player and a fan base who loves him as well. It's been a good fit. So who knows? Maybe they bring him back for one more year.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. If he comes back, that's great. If the Astros decide to move on, well, he's contributed a lot to this team, and glad to see that he was here and made some really big plays with this team. And last question here for you: do you think the Houston Cougars are going to win it all in basketball this year?
Well, I do. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I saw the AP poll came out just earlier this week. They were ranked number 3. So yeah, I mean, I guess I'll put it this way. I mean, I think they have a shot. I mean, they're really deep. They're experienced. They're talented. They have a great coach. You never know what's going to happen when you get into March, but man, the Final Four is in Houston. So if they're not playing in the Final Four in our hometown in April, I'm going to be very disappointed. But yeah, I mean, I would be really excited. And I think they got a good shot, and if I think they will. I think they'll win the national championship, and that will be man, that would be really exciting. But it's going to be a fun basketball season too.
Yeah, for sure. And this is my first year at UH, and really glad I was able to connect with you. I know that you've been someone that I've seen that. I mean, you've been in the business for so long, and I've seen some of the work that you do. Just trying to make myself get in that position one day. So really appreciate the time, Brian. It was great talking to you.
Yeah, sure will. Well, I'm glad you're going to U of H, and looks like you're on the right track. And keep it up, and let me know whatever I can do for you. I will. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much, Brian. Have a good time at the game today.
All right, take care.
Yeah, bye bye.